Perkyplanes and RC here, operating at 2.4 gigahertz, and got my trusty, good old Diet Dew. All right, this is part 2 of the Q&A little video experiment thing we're doing here. You guys asked me a question, leave me a comment, ask me a question, and now I will provide you guys with the answers to those questions. In my last video, if you happen to come across that, basically it was part 1 of a Q&A. You asked me a question, leave a comment, and then I will reply back with this good old video here with an answer to your comments. So that's what we're going to do. All right, and the way this works basically is I'm going to go through all the comments here and give you all an answer to it. I'm going to go ahead and start from the first comment. I'm going from the oldest comment and then work my way up to the newest comments. So first comment here is from Stacy Abshire, the Stace Man. How did you get into RC and how much time do you spend on the hobby each week? Well, okay, basically what kind of got me into RC, I really don't know as far as originally what got me started, but I remember in my childhood days having stuff from Radio Shack and having some RC stuff from Tyco, and that's kind of, I guess it's kind of where it really all started. Was actually from that. I remember having some RC cars. We used to have an old pool, and I had some RC boats that I'd go around, circle around the pool and stuff, and just kind of went from there. Now, as far as planes, though, I didn't really get into that until I was probably about 12 or 13. And we had taken a family trip out to Bob Evans' farm in Rio Grande, Ohio. And, I'm thinking there must be an RC club around that area somewhere. Because, just off in one of the fields, not too far from the Bob Evans farm, there was a group of guys that brought their RC planes out, and they just started, getting everything set up, and they started flying and, flying all around this field and everything. And, aside from doing the family thing there, we just ventured on over to watch these guys fly their airplanes. It was me, my dad, and my mom. And we just went over there and watched these guys fly these airplanes. And that's really, I think, what originally started the RC plane thing. It's like at that point, I really didn't know that RC planes really existed. And so I watched these guys, and then later that year, I just became so amazed by it that I was like, I want an RC plane, and that's kind of what started the whole thing. Now, when I was around that age, and you don't have the community and the stuff that you have now with RC airplanes, and back then it was like you had to kind of know somebody who was into it. There wasn't any cheap little foam airplanes much at the time. Electric hadn't even really come along with RC airplanes, and it was like people were still using glow power and all this kind of stuff. And I think it just became too overwhelming, and it kind of scared me a little bit. Even though I had a plane, it was like a 40 size, high wing trainer. And I was just too afraid to put it up in the air. So I eventually kind of dropped it. And then here about the past, 3 or 4 years ago, I started getting back into planes and actually doing it and stuff. So, all right, now let's go on to the second part of his question here. How much time do I spend on the hobby each week? I would probably say, and it kind of does depend on family stuff and other things going on. Especially right now, we've had a lot of other things going on as well. That's kind of hadn't really given me a whole lot of time to do it. But I would say, on average, anywhere from an hour to many hours. I would say on average anywhere from an hour to possibly 4 and 5 hours, and sometimes even more, depending on the project and how eager I am to get it finished. So, but that's about average. I would say, I would say between 1 to 5 hours, roughly, to work on a project. Now, okay, moving on to the next comment from Poor Man RC. Is RC aircraft your only avenue, or do you also do RC crawlers, buggies, and ground vehicles? He goes on to say, many of us rarely have just one, myself, RC aircraft, crawlers, rally cars, buggies, and I'm considering scratch building an RC boat. Um, just because I've got he's got a huge battery there that he wants to put to use. Um, okay, so is RC aircraft my only avenue, or do I do anything else? Um, for right now, mainly RC aircraft. I do obviously airplanes are the big one. I also do take some drones out on occasion. I've got this little guy right here. Also got my this is the SEMA X5. These are all kind of more or less toy grade drones that I'll kind of take out occasionally and kind of just mess around with a little bit. So drones and planes mainly. Um, I do have an RC, a little toy grade RC helicopter that I'll mess around with too a little bit. I haven't got much into the big helicopters, if you know what I mean. Now, as far as ground vehicles are concerned, I really haven't done it since I was a kid. And actually, the RC field that I go to, they just recently had they recently just completed or got it mostly operational the dirt track RC dirt track there. So um, and I feature that here in one of my videos. Um, at this point right now, I don't have an RC ground vehicle, car, or anything like that. I do think though with the RC dirt track that was put in, I'm going to look into maybe getting an RC car to kind of make use of the dirt track, so to speak. So that I may get kind of step into a little bit maybe next year or something. So, but as for right now, planes and drones mainly. All right, next three comments here are from the totally random adventures of Casper, or my wife, for those who may not know. So, where are we going for our 10th anniversary in May? Hubspeed? Well, I don't know. We'll just have to find out, I guess. Trust me, if I actually right now knew where we were going for our 10th anniversary, I would even tell you. I would keep it as much of a surprise as possible up until the day before we leave, if I could, or I'll try to keep it a secret as much as possible. So, at this point right now, honestly, I don't know. But even if I did know, I still wouldn't tell you. All right, next question from Miss Casper, my wife Cassie. Also, Shuggy wanted me to ask who is the cutest baby on the planet. Just an FYI, Shuggy is our little nickname we give to our baby daughter, precious baby daughter. Her actual name is Sadie, for those who don't know. Um, and the question for this, I mean, or the answer for this is obvious. Sadie is the cutest baby on the planet. No contest, hands down, she is the cutest. Okay, so final question from my wife Cassie. Finally, what will be your next airplane build? Okay, so basically, as of right now, I'm wrapping up things with the KFM wing and the FT Edge. Basically, once those are pretty much done, and I've at least gotten one flight out of them, whether it's a successful maiden or if it's a crash, we'll see. Um, I do have plans to go on to something, something next. That's kind of what I do. I build something, try it out, and then move on to another one. So, what are the next airplane builds that's going to be going on? Well, I actually have about I think at least three lined up that I want to do next. One I was going to keep secret, but we'll go ahead and talk about it now. First and foremost, and this is not the secret one. First and foremost is I do want to dive into some of the FT Master Series. This has been a new thing with their collaboration with John Overstreet. So I'm thinking probably the Corsair. I'm thinking the FT Corsair might be one of my next ventures. Also, something that I actually am in the works of. I kind of got a little slow start with, or kind of got a little bit of a start with this um, while I was doing the Edge as well and doing some other work. But I think this will kind of speak for itself. What something else I've been working on. The wing shape kind of gives it away. So that is something in the works. The FT Spitfire. This is the original FT Spitfire. I think I've heard rumors of a updated Spitfire, but we haven't seen it yet. But that's the original FT Spitfire that the good old Swede David Vindestall, I think is how it's pronounced. One of his designs. So the Spitfire's in the works. That was actually a speed build kit that I had received as a gift. So working on putting that one together. And the secret one that I have wanted to kind of keep secret for a while, but I'm revealing it now, is a community member design for Mr. Grifflyer. That is the Shrub Smacker. So this is kind of like the if you're familiar with Flitetest airplanes, it's basically a miniaturized version of the Bushwhacker. So that's kind of one of the secret ones that's in the works. So we got 3 planes to look out for in coming future. Probably the FT Corsair, FT Spitfire, and then the Shrub Smacker. So moving on, let's go on to the next question here. This is from Mr. Chris McCallum. I believe I pronounced that right. He's a Battle Axe on the forums. Hey, buddy, which build on your bench now or otherwise are you most eager to get built and fly? Well, I would say it's kind of a good question because I'm eager and I'm also scared to fly it, and that is the FT Edge. It is about finished as far as the workbench is concerned. I just think I have to do a couple last minute, things with it, and then it's ready to fly. So I'm eager to try it, but I'm also scared as can be to fly it too because it is so much more maneuverable than anything else I've done. Or at least in terms of the throws, I've kind of got those kind of backed off a little bit. So hopefully it won't be real super bad once I get to actually get it up in the air. So I would say for right now, the FT Edge would be the one that I am most eager to fly, and also, like I said, scared to fly as well. Next question from Test E Call. Going to do any aircraft with glow power? FT foam board's pretty much fuel proof as is, and these things are so laughably light that engines size to turn the props called for are twice as powerful as what's actually needed to fly the plane. Going to do any aircraft with glow power? Basically, I will say this from a Flitetest foam board perspective, probably not with those. I will probably stay all electric with any kind of foam board airplane or Flitetest airplanes. So those will stay all electric. If somebody off the street hands me a glow powered airplane for nothing, I'll gladly take it. Or if they offer me one for pretty cheap, I'll take it. But I think for the most part, when it comes to, I do have some balsa aircraft that I've need to get fixed up and everything. I've kind of felt that for anything relatively larger than a 40 size or a 40 size plane, I would probably start looking more into gas powered, more so than glow. Glow is just one of those things where it's there's a lot of cons with it to me, like the good old fuel mess that you get from it when you're done, as well as the fact that I can get a gallon of gas a lot cheaper than I can get a gallon of glow fuel. Things like that have kind of sort of made me have my views that I do on glow power. Like I said, if anybody hands me one just to get rid of, yeah, I'll take it. But I think when it comes to getting anything larger and something that does require an IC engine, I'll probably stick with gas. Other than that, if it's foam or something like that, I'll probably just stay all electric. Grifflyer is the next one on the list, and actually, like I said, we're featuring. I'll be getting his plane here built at some point. I've got a few questions for you. What is your favorite airplane you've flown to date? Have you ever thought about designing an airplane and then releasing plans for it? How long have you been playing bass, and do you plan on attending Flitetest 2020? It would be awesome to meet you in person. It'd be awesome to meet you as well. I will say this: I do have very strong feelings that I want to go to Flitetest 2020. I've kind of already established it that I really want to go to Flitetest. I have not been there yet, and I figured let's go ahead and make 2020 the year to do that. So am going to do my best to get to Flitetest 2020. So I'll keep the channel more up to date as far as the plans and stuff for that. Favorite plane that I've flown to date? Oh gosh. Well, I originally started out with a Hobbyzone Champ, and that was a favorite of mine for a long time. But there's only so much you can do with a 3-channel. Um, well, actually, with a 3-channel that's like that big too. Um, so it was definitely a favorite plane there for a while. Honestly, um, I will say this: at least the planes that I've flown right now, or as far as the planes that I've flown since the Hobbyzone Champ, I would almost put it as a tie between the Bloody Baron and the FT Simple Storch. Um, the FT Simple Storch to me was a great intro into Flitetest as far as their build techniques, and it's a great size plane, and it's a super easy flyer. It's super floaty. I mean, you can slow it down to almost nothing, and it just kind of hovers there, like a drone. So, you know, I really got into the FT Storch. I had a lot of videos on it, as you probably see on my channel. So the FT Simple Storch is definitely one of my favorites. And I've just recently discovered the FT Bloody Baron and Dan Spawn Holes. I mean, it's I guess what I like about the Bloody Baron especially is that it was a good growth from the storage. It was a lot more maneuverable and aerobatic, and really you can make it as tame or as crazy as you want to. So I like the flexibility there with that, and the fact that it's like it takes you probably an evening to build the thing. I mean, it is super. It's the size is small, I'll say, but it handles things great. And like I said, it is super aerobatic and just a lot of fun. So it's really a good, fun little plane, and it's super quick to build too. So that's another reason why I like it. I haven't got much into doing the combat stuff with the Bloody Baron. Maybe down the road I'll get into that. So, but overall, past the Hobby Zone Champ, the FT Simple Storage and the Bloody Baron are probably my favorites. Have I thought about designing an airplane and then releasing plans for it? I would love to really kind of get into designing airplanes. The only problem is right now is I kind of lack the knowledge and the expertise to get in and actually start releasing plans. I don't have anything right now um, to start doing that. I know there's some programs out there that are available, and I just need to check them out basically, and then learn how to use it. So I hope to eventually get to that point. As for right now, no. But I would like to eventually, at some point, maybe start looking into sort of doing, my own designs and maybe even start having plans for them. So, um, the thoughts there definitely. Not sure when it'll happen, but the thought has occurred to me, at one time. Last question here from Mr. Griff Flyer asked how long I've been playing bass. Well, I started playing bass when I was 14, and I'm now up to 38 years old, soon to be 39. So, 24, 25 years playing bass. I played a variety of bands throughout the years: country, old rock, some kind of rock and metal type of stuff, and also got involved in playing for church as well. So played kind of the variety there. In fact, as of right now, church is about the only thing that I really do anymore. Since having Sadie and stuff, it's just been, it's obviously hard to kind of keep up with the band thing. And, I'm kind of enjoying this kind of land, taking it easy right now, enjoying watching her grow up. But, anymore, all I really do is play for church on Sundays when I can make it. That's really about all I have time for anymore. With having Sadie and everything. So, um, I just kind of enjoy myself, just kind of have fun, jamming around a little bit around the house, and I can just play for church. So, um, I will say I love a lot of good different bass players and things. Red Hot Chili Peppers is a big one, of course. There's Flea and his slap style stuff. That kind of thing. I'm also a big fan of the rock band Rush. So a big fan of that kind of stuff. And, also a big fan of blues as well, blues and walking bass. So, I love some good, walking bass and everything. So, but anyways, that's me and base in a nutshell. So let's go on to the next question. Okay, final question here is from Mr. Nola Deej. What's a good starter RC airplane to get into? Something not too expensive and for someone who is very novice at RC. To basically break it down, I'll try to keep this as quick as possible. There's two approaches with RC airplanes. You have the ready to fly or almost ready to fly airplanes that basically give you almost all the tools you need to get the plane up in the air. That includes your electronics, your controller, transmitter, your battery charger, and all that kind of stuff. And then you have more of the do-it-yourself approach, which you can do-it-yourself foam approach, which is what Flitetest does. That's one of the big things I do on my channel is do a lot of the Flitetest do-it-yourself kind of thing. If you're super hardcore, you can go into doing balsa, making airplanes from balsa kits, or even designing your own balsa airplanes. And of course, you can also do-it-yourself foam as well, foam stuff like Flitetest. So there's a couple different approaches you can take. You can take the planes that are already together, or you can sit there and dive right in and start building your own thing. I will say this: for good ready to fly models that have basically everything included, as of right now, um, these are ones that I would recommend for good ready to fly starter models. First one is the WLToys F949, I believe is the name of it. I think you can get it through Banggood and other places for about $50. It is just a small foam Cessna airplane, 3-channel, um, which is good enough to get you started flying and getting you kind of a feel for it. I think the type of foam that is used with that plane is also very durable, so you can really crash the plane kind of hard and it'll still be okay. So I've heard lots of great things about it. I have no experience with it, but I can tell you just from what I'm seeing and stuff and such, it will be a really, really great one to get into. Like I said, $50, you get the plane, you get the transmitter, controller, as well as the battery and battery charger. And also, something else to consider with that one too is I believe the battery gives you about a 20-minute flight time, which is actually very good for what most RC planes can do. So you can get some pretty long flight times out of it and kind of get a feel for flying the airplane as far as just general direction. And you can do like basic aerobatics like loops and stuff like that. So that would be a good starter. The next one that I would recommend that's a ready to fly model would be the Eflite Apprentice or even the Mini Apprentice if you need something smaller. They're a little bit more expensive, um, but it gives you a really good size airplane that can actually teach you as you fly. It actually has the safe system, which the safe system with the 3 different flight modes. So just to give you an idea, you have a beginner mode, intermediate mode, and advanced mode. And with each mode, you get more maneuverability of the airplane. In beginner mode, the plane practically flies itself. Um, and you also have a panic button with that particular plane as well. So if you get into some crazy maneuver, you hit the panic button and it levels the plane out like nothing ever happened. So those are two major models I would definitely look at if you're starting out. Um, one that got me started is the Hobbyzone Champ. It is a small little plane as well, 3-channel. Basically, very much like the WLToys 949 little Cessna. It's very much the same kind of plane. Good little trainer. So if you can get your hands on a Hobbyzone Champ, the original yellow one, those are also very good as well to get started. If you're more looking into doing a do-it-yourself approach, Flitetest is highly recommended. Of course, that's what I've been doing here recently. That's what I've been doing a lot here on the channel. So, but it's a very much do-it-yourself kind of approach. It is, you get the foam, you cut it, you follow the plans, you build it, put it together. It's that kind of thing. But they have the FT Tiny Trainer, which is a good little starter plane. It's also a 3-channel, something to kind of get you started into the hobby that way, and you can kind of grow with it from there. If you don't want to follow the plans from Flitetest, you can also go to the Flitetest website, purchase yourself a speed build kit, which is basically a laser cut kit. You just pop pieces out, follow the instructional video and glue everything together, and there you go. So that's a lot quicker way of doing the flight test kind of thing. So, but like I said, if you're wanting to get in the air quickly or something to learn with and stuff like that, check out some of those RTF ready to fly models that I was talking about. Okay. All right. Well, that is all of the questions there. I do want to thank you guys for watching. I might pop in periodically and do this do this from time to time and just kind of answer some random questions at random times. So keep the comments coming, and if you have any questions or anything like that, just let me know. All right. Well, that's all for me, and we will see you in the next video.